I was the first person in my family to be born here in the USA, but 100% not the last. On my mom's side of the family, my ancestors were most likely taken from Africa during slavery. They were taken to current day Jamaica. Jamaica is a small island just south of Cuba. As years went by, my family lived in Jamaica until my great grandparents wanted my grandparents to see the world. One of my great grandparents' name is Edgar Taylor. He is my grandmother's father. Unfortunately, I do not know his spouse. Later on, my great grandparents agreed to have my grandparents to see the world. My great grandfather Clifford Campbell Taylor and my great grandmother Maria May Gale are the people to have my granddad and his siblings go live in a different country. My grandfather's siblings are Keith, Dr. Clifford, Gloria, Barbara, and Howard. Keith moved to England. Dr. Clifford moved to England as well. Aunt Glo, aka Aunt Gloria, moved to Canada, as well as Barbara, aka Aunt Babs, and Uncle Howie. My grandfather's name is Peter. He is the youngest out of them all. Peter eventually married my grandmother, who I call Nana, which I'll explain in a minute. They gave birth to my Uncle Peter, Jr., Auntie Lisa May, and my mom. While the three siblings were growing up in Toronto, my biological grandparents got a divorce, and my grandfather remarried to my grandma Bev. My grandmother, who I call Nana, remarried to my grandpa Michael. So I call Grandma Bev Grandma and Michael Grandpa. I call my biological grandmother Nana Taylor and my biological grandfather Granddad. On my father's side of the family, he was born in November in 1968 in Lillooet, British Columbia, Canada. My father's biological mother, Georgina Bamford, was born in 1947 and 21 years old when she was pregnant with my father before marriage. My biological grandfather, which I do not have a name for, was born in 1948. He was Caucasian, Roman Catholic, and of French origin. Back in the 1950s and 60s, being pregnant before marriage was not socially acceptable. So my great-grandparents on my father's side of the family put him up for adoption. My non-biological grandparents, Bernice and Grant, adopted him. For my father, being adopted by Bernice and Grant was the best thing that happened to him. He was loved by his new family. He grew up in Burlington, Ontario, Canada. Burlington is about an hour drive from Toronto. The fact that my father was mostly raised by Grant and Bernice, he has viewed them as his parents even though they are not his biological parents. This is why I call them Nana Howard and Granddad Howard. This is also why I do not know much about my father's side of the family. Time to tell you how my parents met. My parents met each other in Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Coincidentally, they were following the same jazz band. They met at a concert in Toronto. My father was going to the concert with his friends, same as my mom. They came across each other. They met and really liked each other. They spent lots of time together at the concert. After they started dating. My parents dated for a while until my father got a job here in California, United States, on Bayfront Island. Not wanting to break up, my father and my mother agreed that Dad would take the job. A few months later, my mother joined him in California. Again, they spent plenty of time together. My father was living here in Alameda during this time. Later on, my mom flew back to Toronto, Canada for a while. Soon after, she returned to the U.S. and married Dad on November 24th, 1997. Soon after their marriage, my parents moved to Fremont, California, which is about an hour drive south from here. They lived together in a small house. Later on the day my parents would never forget was August the 7th, 2003, I was born. And let let me tell you, pigs were flying, there was a marching band, and F-18s defended the skies, and I'm just kidding. In all seriousness, I was born. The three of us lived in Fremont until 2004, a month after my first birthday. It's the house that I still live in today after we moved. We lived here for 6 years before November 9, 2010. On Tuesday, my sister was born in Berkeley, California. Okay, cool, now it's story time. About 5 years later, after my sister was born, my family and I decided to go to Canada for Christmas. We woke up early like any other day we leave for Canada. The day was December 17, 2015. We arrived at the airport to check in and to get our baggage ready. I decided to look at the board where they show all the flights. I noticed our flight said it was canceled, and we still not know what canceled it to this day. So we were put on a flight to Vancouver, British Columbia first, then go to Toronto. I was thinking, okay, cool, new place. We've never been there before. However, the flight does not leave until 11:30 a.m. We were there at 5:30 in the stinking morning. We had to wait 6 hours in the terminal to head to Vancouver. Hooray. Our plane eventually arrived at the gate. We boarded, then pushed back late. We taxied to the runway to take off. However, at least 5 other planes needed to take off before us. That day was just unlucky for us. We finally left for Vancouver and arrived there an hour late. We quickly got off, went through customs, and headed through security only to find our flight to Toronto was delayed for another hour because we arrived late. We left Vancouver finally. I slept for the majority of the flight, and we finally arrived in Toronto at 12:46 a.m. Eastern Time. It was a really long day, but we finally made it after 12 hours of chaos. Unfortunately, now my parents are getting a divorce, and they both have this significant other right now. My mom has a boyfriend named Rory, and my father has a girlfriend named Rebecca. Rory has a 5-year-old daughter named Simone, who is the same name as my mom. Rebecca has a son named Shlomo. I have a big family, and they live all over the world. The majority of my family are people I have not even met yet. I love my family very much, and I hope I can see them all very soon. This is how my family got all over the world, and how I, Boston Howard, got to California. Like I said, I love my Humungo family. I want to meet them all, and here are some pictures of my family.